Welcome to my Madden 23 Philadelphia Eagles franchise rebuild. This will be similar to my Texans franchise that I just wrapped up for Madden 22, where we will watch the games, I won't be playing any of them, and we will simulate a handful of the games every season. But here in episode 1, we will be simulating the preseason and making some roster changes getting ready for week 1. Head coach Nick Sirianni is gone and head coach Cameron Knight has taken over the Philadelphia Eagles, so let's go ahead and jump into this roster and see what we are starting with. Obviously, starting at quarterback, we have Jalen Hurts, who is a 74 overall going into his third year. He does have the QB of the future player tag, which is a new feature here in Madden 23, but he also wants a mentor at his position, so we may have to go sign a veteran quarterback to get him that, and also he would earn some extra XP if they have the mentor tag. Here are the starting ratings for Jalen Hurts: an 86 throw power, 80 deep accuracy, 82 medium, and an 87 short accuracy. 69 awareness kind of worries me, especially since we're not controlling anything, but we will see how he plays out in season 1 because this is kind of a make or break year even in real life for Jalen Hurts. Then at running back, we have Miles Sanders, who is an 82 overall star dev trait going into his 4th year. He currently has no player tags, and he will be looking for a new contract at the end of this season, so we have to keep that in mind. We also have running back Kenneth Gainwell, who I believe the Eagles took in the 4th or 5th round a couple years ago. He is going into his 2nd year, a 74 overall, no tags on him as well, but if we move on from Miles Sanders, he may be the guy. And then just because I'm an OU fan, I'm going to point out Kennedy Brooks in the Eagles' first real preseason game. He did manage to catch a touchdown, which was pretty cool. I was pretty hype about that. If I can keep him on the roster, I will, but at 63 overall, I really don't know how much he's going to develop. And then obviously we have the new star wide receiver here in Philly, AJ Brown, an 87 overall star dev trait going into his 4th year. Just got a brand new contract. Here are his ratings: 91 speed, 88 catching. He is going to be a threat for us, and he does not have any player tags as well. And then we have 2nd year wide receiver Devontae Smith, who was an 83 overall star dev trait, only 23 years old. He does have the day 1 starter player tag, but his motivations are a little bit impacted by the fact that we don't actually have a franchise quarterback right now, but I'm hoping to turn Jalen into that. And then the 3rd and final receiver we will look at is wide receiver Quez Watkins, a 76 overall normal dev trait going into his 3rd year, but he has 98 speed. I believe he is the 2nd or the 3rd fastest receiver in the game, so I'm hoping we can use him a bit on offense. Moving on to tight end, we have 85 overall Dallas Goedert going into his 5th season with a star dev trait. He does not have any player tags, but he does also have the motivation of team has a franchise QB. Like I said with Devontae, I'm hoping to turn Jalen into that. And why don't we just take care of this right now? Let's go ahead and get rid of JJ Arcega-Whiteside. We just traded him in real life yesterday as of recording this to the Seahawks. Let's see if we can get the same exact deal that the Seahawks gave us. We'll head to defensive back, I believe. Yeah, Ugo Amadi. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. We're going to try to send JJ Arcega-Whiteside there, and they are not interested in that trade. Okay, so I had to throw in a 2024 6th round pick. Not really concerned about that, but we do make this trade to make the roster a little bit more accurate. And then just because I mentioned earlier that I am an OU fan, Grant Calcaterra is also on the roster. He did transfer to SMU, but he played his first few years at OU. He was a pretty solid player, so if I can keep him on the roster, I will, but at 65 overall, I don't know about it. And also, we have a ton of tight ends on the roster apparently for some reason. Moving on to look at the offensive line, left tackle Jordan Mailata was definitely a player that broke out last year, going into his 5th year now as an 84 overall, just got a new contract, and he should hold on the left side of the line pretty well for us. Well, they did not do Landon Dickerson any favors with this player model, but Landon Dickerson is our starting left guard, 75 overall star dev trait going into his 2nd year. And then we have Jason Kelsey, a 90 overall superstar dev trait going into his 12th year. We will probably have to replace him pretty early in this series, but I'm hoping to maybe get him a ring before he retires, but I think he may retire after season 1, but we'll have to figure out exactly how that plays out. And I apologize if I'm going to say this player's name wrong. Isaac Samalu, I hope I said that right, a 72 overall going into his 7th year. Right guard is definitely something we need to look at in the upcoming offseason. Hell, maybe in free agency right now. And then, in my opinion, the best right tackle in the league, Lane Johnson, a 92 overall superstar dev trait. He does not have any tags, but he does have some motivations. He wants to be in a playoff contender. He apparently doesn't fit the scheme. I did change the scheme to a spread, so I guess that kind of makes sense because I wanted to get Jalen Hurts as a scheme fit. Now on to the defensive side of the ball, and once again, they did not give Brandon Graham a great player model. He comes in as an 80 overall star dev trait going into his 13th year and coming off an injury. But also at left end, we have Josh Sweat, who played pretty well for us last year. I'd say last year was kind of a breakout year for him. He is an 80 overall with a star depth trait. At right end, we will have Derek Barnett, but he will most likely not be the starter. I will probably start both Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat. And then at defensive tackle, we have Fletcher Cox, an 88 overall superstar depth trait going into his 11th year. So we will need to look for a replacement soon, but they kind of drafted one, and I'll get to the rookies here in a minute. Another defensive tackle on the roster is defensive tackle Javon Hargrave, 84 overall star depth trait going into his 7th year. And then at outside linebacker, one of the newest Eagles from this last offseason, Hassan Reddick, and I hope I said his name right, an 82 overall going into his 6th year with a star depth trait. I feel one of the biggest weaknesses on this team is going to be linebacker, and here at middle linebacker we have TJ Edwards, who is a 79 overall normal depth trait going into his 4th year. Now with that being said about the linebackers being a weaker position this year for Philadelphia, Kaiser White is another player that they went out and signed, so at least our front office is trying to make improvements, but he is a 79 overall going into his 5th year and is a scheme fit. And then at corner, we have one of the best cornerbacks in the league, Darius Slay, a 92 overall superstar depth trait going into his 10th year. I feel like age is going to start affecting him pretty hard soon if they kept that sort of regression in Madden 23, which I assume they did. But hopefully he doesn't regress too hard, but we may have to start looking for his replacement as well. We did sign James Bradbury during the offseason. He is an 82 overall corner, star depth trait going into his 7th year. And then our slot corner will be Avonte Maddox, who is 26 years old, 79 overall, going into his 5th year with a star depth trait. He is close to becoming an 80 overall, though. One of the other weaker points on this team is the safety position. Starting at free safety, we have Jaquiski Tart. I'm going to hope I said his name right as well. A 79 overall with a star depth trait, but he's going into his 8th year, so he probably won't progress much more. And then on the other side of him, we have strong safety Anthony Harris, who is an 80 overall, also going into his 8th year with a superstar depth trait. And then at kicker, we have Jake Elliott, who is a 76 overall with a normal depth trait. And then finally at punter, not that it's really that important, we have Aaron Sipos, who is a 69 overall. I probably did not say his name right either. But now that I've gone over the main starters of this team, let's take a look at the top end of the last draft class to figure out exactly how I want to build around these guys. Like I said, when we were looking at Fletcher Cox, we may have already drafted his replacement. Jordan Davis was our first round pick this year. He is a 78 overall with a hidden depth trait. He does have the day one starter player tag, and here are his beginning ratings: 96 strength, 75 block shedding. I think he is going to be a very, very good piece for this rebuild. In the second round, we may have taken our replacement for Jason Kelsey. We took Cam Jurgens, a 68 overall center out of Nebraska. He does have the player tag of a future starter, so he will start above players that are close to his rating, and he gets an increased bonus XP during weekly training. I will say I'm a little disappointed that Jason Kelsey does not have the player tag of motivator, so we could get a little more XP for Cam Jurgens, but I guess we'll just have to live with it. And then possibly the steal of the draft, Nakobe Dean, I guess with some injury concerns, fell all the way to the 3rd round of Philadelphia. He is a 71 overall normal depth trait, and he does have the player tag of future starter, but we may honestly start him over TJ Edwards, but I'll have to compare their ratings. But that is all the rookies I wanted to really take a look at and show you guys how I kind of plan to build around them, or at least talk about them for a little bit. But let's head to the free agent market and let's see if there's anyone we can sign that can help this team kind of immediately. The first player I'm looking at signing here is quarterback Cam Newton. He's only a 67 overall. Obviously, I'm not signing him to be the starter. He does have a couple player tags, one of them being a bridge QB. If starting, the team will look to draft the replacement. Not worried about that. And mentor, that's the one I'm concerned about. Teams are more interested in signing this player during free agency, and he boosts weekly XP training for other players at their position. And Jalen, obviously, you saw in his motivations, wanted a veteran or a mentor backup, so we're going to go ahead and sign Cam Newton. I think I would rather be stacked at a few other positions, so I'm going to cut some tight ends here. I know Rick Lovato is a pretty big part of the Eagles in real life, but there is really no need for a long snapper in Madden, so I'm going to go ahead and cut him so we free up that roster spot. I'm also going to cut tight end Tyree Jackson. He's only a 56 overall. It will cause a little bit of some cap penalty apparently, but I'm not real concerned about that. I'm also going to release tight end Richard Rodgers, so we free up $900K in cap space, and we now have 3 open roster spots. I'm also going to cut quarterback Reed Sennett because I don't feel like we need that many QBs on the roster. I'm also going to look to trade quarterback Gardner Minshew over to Seattle because their starting quarterback is Drew Luck, who is only a 66, so Minshew would actually start for them right now. I will be shocked if they actually give us a second round pick for Gardner Minshew here, and no, they will not. I tried to get a second round pick for Gardner Minshew, but they did not take that, so what about a third round? And we do send him to Seattle for a third round pick. Now back to free agency, I'm looking at right guard Darrell Williams. He does have the tag of a bridge player, so if starting, the team will look to draft a replacement. Future starters will be placed ahead of this player on the depth chart, but we're going to sign him to be our starting right guard for right now. I'm also going to sign defensive back Troy Pride Jr. He has a tag of a future starter, so he will get a little more bonus XP, but we're going to bring him in. The last free agent I'm going to bring in is Chris Harris Jr. I'm not going to start him at corner though. We are going to move him to safety and see if he gets any better. If he gets like way worse, I can cut him. There's no cap penalty or anything. So we'll just sign him to this pretty expensive $7 million deal, but we're going to move him to safety and see what happens. All right, I lied. We're going to bring in a couple more free agents. I still have a couple more roster spots, but we're going to sign wide receiver Darius Fountain, who is 6'2". I probably screwed up his name. A 67 overall playmaker. His ratings are 88 speed, but I noticed he had a pretty decent short route running. And then his motivations or tags are player will be added to the trade block, but I don't think I'm going to trade him. And then the last player I'm going to bring in here, definitely this time, is Eric Flowers, a 76 overall left guard. And once again, they did not do his player model any favors. And I moved Chris Harris over to free safety, and he stayed at an 84 overall. So as of right now, that is going to be our starting free safety. One player I did not mention earlier was free safety Kayvon Wallace, who is a 71 overall going into his third year, but he does have the player tag of future starter, and then Chris Harris has the player tag of mentor, so other players at that position will get some XP, so hopefully Kayvon Wallace can progress a little bit this season, and then maybe eventually become our starting free safety. But now with all that out of the way, I will start to simulate this preseason. We will get through the cut days, that way the next video can be week 1 of this season. I would say the first preseason game went pretty well. We won 31-0. Let's take a look at some stats here. Cam Newton throws 3 touchdowns in that performance. Okay, on the ground, Boston Scott ran for 55 yards. Miles Sanders got a touchdown. What about receiving? Rager, who was fighting for a roster spot, 4 catches, 86 yards. Quez Watkins got a touchdown. Devontae Smith got a touchdown. And who caught the other one? That would be Jack Stoll. It looks like Fletcher Cox got a couple sacks today, and we got a couple picks from TJ Edwards and Darius Slay. The Jets quarterbacks obviously did not have a good day. Flacco throws a pick along with Zach Wilson. After that game, we do have some player upgrades though, so let's upgrade Avonte Maddox's man-to-man. That gets him to an 80 overall slot corner. I would say that's pretty good. He gets +3 to awareness and 1 to man. Jason Kelsey is also getting an upgrade. We'll just upgrade his agile to get him to a 91 overall. Let's see what upgrades he gets. He is going to get +1 to pass block, 2 to pass block finesse, 1 to run block, and 1 to run block finesse. And we win our second preseason game 21-16. Let's go take a look at some stats for this one. It looks like Jalen got to play a little bit more. He did throw a touchdown. Cam did not have another 3 touchdown performance. On the ground, Sanders didn't really do a whole lot. 9 carries for 39 yards, but Boston Scott scored a touchdown. And receiving, AJ Brown had one hell of a day. 5 catches for 111 yards, and Zach Pascal caught a touchdown. We got a few sacks today. Brandon Graham got 2, Fletcher Cox got 1, and Hassan Reddick got 1. What about interceptions? No one got any. We do have another upgrade after that game, and that's going to be Zach McPherson, who I believe was a corner we took a couple years ago. And we'll upgrade his man-to-man. He gets +1 to awareness, 2 to man, and 1 to zone. But we do now have a training camp standout scenario, so let's see what that's about. Coach Josh Sweat has had a strong camp and continued to build on that preseason. Where has he improved the most? I don't know, rushing the passer or stopping the run. We're going to say stopping the run because I believe run stopper is actually our scheme fit. He's getting a lot better at the point of attack. Yeah, just standard stuff from last year. Josh Sweat has received +5 to block shedding. Okay. And we finished the preseason strong, winning 28-7 and moving on to 3-0 in the preseason. Let's figure out exactly what happened in this game. It doesn't look like Cam did a whole lot. Jalen Hurts threw a touchdown and a pick. On the ground, Miles Sanders got a touchdown through the air. No one had an insane day like last week. And then Devontae Smith with a touchdown, and I believe that's going to be the only one. We got a few sacks again. Fletcher Cox got 1. Brandon Graham. It looks like Jordan Davis got 1. Josh Sweat got half of 1. And TJ Edwards got half of 1. And we got 3 interceptions. Darius Slay got 2. And Kaiser White got 1. Tua didn't exactly have a great day. He did manage to throw a touchdown, but Teddy Bridgewater comes out and throws 2 interceptions. But now we are at this point. I have to cut 22 players to meet the roster requirement. So let's go ahead and start doing that. First thing we're going to do is start to move some players to the practice squad, like quarterback Carson Strong. He's going to head there. We will roll with 2 quarterbacks into the regular season. And for right now, I am going to move running back Kennedy Brooks to the practice squad. He may get sniped off that, being a 63 overall, but I'm not 100% sure. We're also going to move tight end Noah Togiai. Yeah, no idea how to say his name, but he's going to the practice squad. Left tackle Brett Toth is just going to be released just because I can't even put him on the practice squad and he has no chance of ever developing. We do also have 7 defensive tackles on the roster, so I'm going to go ahead and cut Renell Wren. And we may have to cut another one off this team. I really don't want to roll in with 6 active defensive tackles. I feel like that's a bit overkill. I feel like he may get sniped off the practice squad, but we are going to move Marvin Wilson to the practice squad. And we now have, 5 active defensive tackles here? We are also going to move right outside linebacker Jacoby Stevens over to the practice squad, and I'm honestly not even sure how many people I have there now. I think 6. And we have 11 actives defensive backs, so yeah, that's probably going to get trimmed down a bit. Mac McCain at a 63 overall with 66 man coverage. We're just going to cut him and save the roster space and the cap space. We're also going to cut defensive back Josiah Scott, who only has 68 man coverage. And I'm really considering cutting Ty Gowan or Ty Gowan. I'm not real sure which way you pronounce that. But we did trade Zach Ertz to get him, so I feel like it would kind of be unrealistic to cut him. So we're also going to move Kerry Vincent Jr. to the practice squad, and that gives us 8 active defensive backs, and I still feel like that is way too many. So yeah, even though I just said it may be a little bit unrealistic to get rid of him after we use that in the trade for Zach Ertz, we're just going to go ahead and get rid of him because I really don't feel like he fits on this roster anymore. We're also going to move strong safety Jared Maiden over to the practice squad, and we'll roll with 2 starting safeties or strong safeties going into the year. So I've now made 12 moves, so I still have 10 more to make here. The next player is going to be right tackle LaRaven Clark, a 56 overall. Yeah, you are not going to stay on the roster for 1.13 million here. Maybe another player that could get sniped. I honestly don't know how much more space I have on the practice squad, but we're going to move Jack Anderson over there. And I'm going to really hope we don't start having injuries along the offensive line. I'm going to cut left guard Sua Apida just because I don't really think he's going to progress to anything. And even though we just brought him in, I am going to release wide receiver Darius Fountain. I just don't feel like there's enough space on this roster to keep a player like him, and we still have like 7 active receivers now. Once again, not sure how much space I have left on the practice squad, and this guy may get taken, but we're going to move Patrick Johnson over to the practice squad as well. 1 more player is headed to the practice squad at least. We're going to move Sean Bradley if it lets me, and it looks like we still have practice squad space. I'm also going to cut defensive back Jimmy Moreland here. We have 3 players left to get rid of after this. And the first of those last 3 moves is going to be trading Jalen Reagor over to Tampa Bay for a 5th round pick. Obviously, we spent a 1st round pick on him a few years ago. It has not worked out. We are trading him to Tampa. He gets a fresh start. We get a 5th round pick and just get him pretty much off the team. And the next move is going to be trading free safety Marcus Epps to Green Bay for a 5th round pick as well. He was our 3rd free safety on the depth chart. I was probably going to cut him anyway, so I just want to see if I can get anything for him, and we were able to. And the last move here I don't think is going to be a very popular one. I am trading Miles Sanders to Seattle for a 2nd round pick. The reason I've done this is because he's going to want a new contract at the end of the season, and we're probably going to lose him for nothing because I don't really think I'm going to offer him a contract, or I wouldn't have offered him a contract unless he just played absolutely amazing. I would rather get rid of him now, get something in return for it, and then move on to look at a different running back. I've made 1 more move. I have moved Jason Huntley to the practice squad and actually swapped him out for Kennedy Brooks. So Kennedy Brooks will be on the 53-man roster. I'm actually going to attempt to get him some playing time, and because I signed him off the practice squad, I guess he's actually getting paid more than these other 2 running backs, but either way, I'll attempt to get him some playing time because I noticed his ball carrier vision is actually higher than these 2. The only thing that's really killing him is awareness, which obviously is big in simulation, so we'll try to run a running back by committee, but I don't think Madden is great at doing that, honestly, but we'll try it. Alright, but that is the introduction and the preseason and all the roster moves I am doing in this video. In the next video, we will take on the Detroit Lions in week 1. We will be watching that game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I will talk to you guys next time.